Hey everyone, and welcome to our Space Engineers Survival Series, episode number 7. Okay, so we have our little atmospheric flight craft here built, and technically we could take it for a spin. However, there's a couple final things we want to do to it, and so we're going to take care of that in this episode, and maybe take it for a short flight, dock it up, and maybe do a little bit of mining. We'll see what happens. Okay, so what's left is we want to, first off, stick some landing gear on it so we can land someplace besides our base. Then we're going to add a couple drills to it, as well as underneath our cockpit here, we're also going to place a connector so we can connect vertically to a base as well as horizontally. So we'll go ahead and start with the landing gear. So the first thing we're going to do for that is come over here, and we're going to grab a couple of steel plates. So if I right click and drag, that will give me the option to select how many I want. We're going to grab 4. I don't remember if I've mentioned that before, so we'll go ahead and mention it now. And then we're just going to come here, and I'm going to put, maybe, over here, there we go, put a couple there, and a couple there. And so I'll go ahead and weld those up. Okay, so there's the support points for our landing gear. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get what will make them stick. So I am going to scroll through here. Well, stop it here. So head to our G menu. First off, like I always like to do, slot 1 for every toolbar is usually the welder. And then the other thing, there's a couple options we can use for landing gear. So I'm just going to punch in landing here. Okay, so here's our landing gear. So 3 different things that we can possibly use. We have the landing gear itself, and then we have this thing, a large magnetic plate, and just a basic magnetic plate. On a ship like this, these basic magnetic plates will make a nice landing gear. We can just take those magnetic plates, we can place them right here on the bottom, basically, of our landing gear, what I guess I would call our landing gear struts. And it will lock down to the different surfaces. Now when it says landing a magnetic plate, it will lock to it'll lock down to ground, it'll lock onto pretty much anything. So we are going to use a couple of those. So I'll come and get the components for them. I'm going to crouch now. The drawback to this is I may or may not actually be able to get underneath that well enough to get it. So there's that. Get to small grid, use our middle mouse button. Magnetic plate is what we want. So as I said, I may or may not be able to get underneath that, so we might have to wait till we get this thing airborne. Alright, well I guess we're going to wait till we get this thing airborne to actually put the landing gear on it. So what's next? Well, I guess we'll go ahead and put the drills on it. So for the drills, we're going to attach the drills with the access points here on this side and here on this side. So we're going to have a pair of them right at the side of the cockpit. So the first thing we're going to use to do that is we will need some conveyor ports. So I'm going to have to go in here, conveyor, and then I'm going to grab this right here. This is the small conveyor. So this is what we'll actually end up using for our small grid vehicles, and then the specific piece I want is this one, the small curved conveyor tube. And what I have planned is going to require 3 of those per drill. So I'm going to queue those up in the build planner, come over here and grab the stuff. Looks like I might have to produce a little bit of stuff. That's alright, that shouldn't take too long, hopefully. Apparently I didn't get this as thoroughly set up as I wanted to, so there we go. Okay, so now we're going to come over here. This is going to be our connector point, so I'm going to find those curved ones. First one, I'm going to kick it down. Second one, I'm going to rotate it so it goes this way, and then the third one, so it goes that way. And I'm going to do that on both sides of our mining craft here. So there's that one. So pointing down, pointing over, and pointing front. Alright, so there we go. So that will basically provide, now one thing you might be wondering is why didn't I just tuck it right up? You just use one of these and point it straight out and go over. Well, for one thing, the drill would not fit in that position. It's wide enough that it would interfere with the cockpit, so it wouldn't fit there. And then I dropped it down one just to line things up a little better for our drilling process. So there's the ports for our drill. Now we need a drill. So as I scan this, nope, I do not have that on the... I don't have that on here yet, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up my G menu. Drill, and here's the drill I want, just the basic drill. And we want small grid, which is what is currently selected. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple of those over here, grab our stuff. Okay, it looks like we're going to have to do some waiting for things to produce. So here is our drill, and what we need to do is we want to rotate it. So notice the way this drill is shaped. See, I'll come over here so you can see it a little better. So if we kind of look at the way this drill is shaped, it's sort of oblong high or oblong wide. We want it to set up as oblong wide, or sorry, oblong high for this. And we need that back part right there to line up with our conveyor, our connector port right there. So if we go ahead and place that in there, you can double check. Yep, that is in the right spot, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to do this on the other side as well. So there's drill number 1, and there is drill number 2. Now apparently, again, we got to kind of wait for our stuff to get produced. Alright, almost done. Steel plates don't take very long. Okay, all components successfully withdrawn, so now we're going to get over here and weld up those drills. Okay, there's drill number 1. And drill number 2. Okay, so there is a pair of drills for us to work with. So we'll pop into our cockpit here, hit the K button, and we're going to look. So we're going to create a group now. That involves our drills. So here's drill. I'm just going to label it as drill number 1. And then I'm going to also shift click to get drill number 2. And we're going to call the group Airship Drills. And save. Alright. So there is that group. Now another thing we're going to do, that now that all of our thrusters are on, we're going to go ahead and create some groups for those as well. We're going to have multiple groups actually for these. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select all of those thrusters. So let's see, there's all the airship thrusters. And we're simply going to call them airship thrusters. And hit save for that one. So that basically will allow us to turn, eventually once we set our cockpit commands up, to turn all of them on or off with one single button. Now there is another group that I'm going to grab. I'm going to go down here and grab all of our reverse thrusters. And I'm also going to make a block for those as well. As soon as I learn how to type, there we go. Alright, so now I have two groups of thrusters. I've got one with all of them, and then one for my reverse thrusters. And the reason we'll do that, we did that, we'll go ahead and talk about that once we get set up for flying. Alright, so there is all that. And now speaking of flying, the rest of the stuff we need to put on here, the landing gear, the magnetic plates for our landing gear, as well as our connector there under the cockpit, we need to have this thing up and off the deck. And a couple other things we're going to put on this as well. Maybe I'll do that before we lift off. Some tail lights, a camera on the back, and we're going to get one headlight on this as well. So we're going to have to do some constructing. So we're going to come over here. So for our headlight, we're just going to use we'll go ahead and use a basic spotlight for that. And then for the tail lights, I like to use these, either these offset lights, offset spotlights, or another option. Nope, those are the only ones we've got. Oh, this one right here, the interior light. So all those are decent options to use as your backup lights. I'm going to go ahead and choose a couple of these. So a couple of offset spotlights for that. And then the last thing we're going to want is a backup camera. So there we go. We've now got those 4 things queued up. And we'll go ahead and drop the camera. And drop the light here onto our toolbar. Okay, so just queue up the production. These are fairly lightweight components, so it doesn't take too long to produce what we need for them. There we go. Collect all of those. Okay, so first off, let's go ahead and stick our spotlight here on the front. So I'm going to go ahead and use this spotlight. So we want that, rotate that around, face it forward, and usually I put the slots there horizontal. So we'll drop that on and weld it up. Okay, that'll be handy when we're in a mining hole when we're digging. Now we're going to come around to the back here, and we'll put the others on. So I'm going to scroll now till I find the offset spotlight. I'm actually going to rotate it so it's on the outer edge, and place those as well. And then finally, excuse me, I hope I shielded that enough there. So lastly, we'll put the camera on. Now the camera does have a specific orientation. Right side up will be with the camera such that you can read it, and that little white dot in the lower left corner. So I'm going to plant that, and I'm also going to weld that up. So there's some lighting and some camera. Pop on here. Go back to K. Ignore that one button push for the moment. So now we're going to find our lights. Okay, so here is our offset spotlights. So these basically, I'm going to rename these. I'm going to call these airship tail light, and that is number 1. We're going to do the same thing here. Airship tail light, and this will be number 2. And like the rest of the items, we're going to make a group. So airship tail lights, and save. Alright, and then one more to do. Our spotlight here that we'll rename airship headlight. And I'm going to go ahead to save power. I'm going to go ahead and toggle that one off, and I'll do the same thing with both of those. Okay, so there's that. And then I'm also going to go ahead and call this airship camera. Again, making sure labeling what the component is belongs to is always a good idea. Alright, so there we go. So everything has that airship moniker on it. So now we are basically ready to disconnect this thing and get it under its own power. Okay, so notice in the lower right hand corner here, it indicates that we are currently not using at least no registerable amount of power, and we have 5 days worth of energy available. So now we're going to go ahead and set a couple things up through our G menu. So we pull up our G menu. I'm going to go here to block groups, and I'm going to set a couple 3 things up here. So first off, airship reverse thrusters, airship thrusters. So I'm going to go ahead, and you can arrange your toolbar any way you see fit. I honestly don't have a super consistent way that I do it, but first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just set up a toggle block on off for our thrusters. That's all of them. And then I'm also going to do the same thing for our reverse thrusters, and we'll talk about that once we get airborne. I'll mention a little bit why I'm setting it up like that. Okay, and that basically at this point is all I'm going to go ahead and set up. So we've got all of these, we've got these toggles on and off. Actually, I'm going to go set one more thing up. So we're going to go home, And over here we have our airship rear connector. I'm going to go here and I'm going to scroll down this list until I find switch lock. And I'm going to select that as well. I won't need that right away, but it will come in handy later. Okay, so now with those couple things set up on our ship, I'm going to go ahead, power those engines on, and pop out of our cockpit. Now, currently, this unfinished landing gear, flip my suit lights on, this unfinished landing gear and these two blocks are currently holding our ship in place. So I'm going to go back to my first toolbar, grab my grinder, crouch, and begin grinding. So take that out, and that out. So now our little airship is now hovering under its own power. Now a couple things I need to do. I want to set up those landing gear and I want to set up that connector. So I got to get this thing a little higher in the air. So I'm going to pop in there, tap the space bar to lift it. Don't need to lift it far, just enough so I can get under it. And now notice I only have 27 minutes of energy remaining before my batteries die, with my motors supporting the ship. So we'll get going and get things set up. So here we go. So to wrap this up, I'm going to need those magnetic plates, which fortunately I already have the parts for. So I'm going to go in, bring those up. Now I can put these right underneath these struts. Now you can do anything fancy with your struts and your landing gear as you want. I'm keeping this really super basic for our purposes here. Okay, so there are those. And then the last thing I wanted was I wanted to get a connector in there. So I'm going to go in here and grab the parts I need for the queue up that in my build planner and go here and begin the process of the parts, getting the parts I need. And once I get that done, our airship will be finished and ready to fly. Motors are notorious for taking time to build. Keep clicking with maybe a certain level of patience. There we go. Alright, so we're loaded up. Scroll and find our connector, and we're going to drop that in there. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to go pop back into our ship, flip to K, and I'm going to type in magnetic plate to look for those. So these are our landing gear. So this is going to be, label this airship landing gear 1. Airship landing gear 2. Okay, and as I've done with other things, we're going to go ahead and select both of these and create a block group. Airship landing gear. Okay, now there's a couple settings we want to use for these. Number one, auto lock can be both blessing and curse. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the auto lock. Basically, auto lock, what that would mean is as soon as either of those landing gear are within range for anything, it'll attach and lock on. So we're going to go ahead and shut that off. Okay, so there is our airship landing gear. So I'm going to shut that down. And then I'm also going to find the other connector, which is down here. And we are going to call this airship. Oops, there we go. Airship connector. And this is going to be bottom. Okay, that just tells me that that's the one on the bottom. Okay, so now continuing to set this up. So to continue to set this up, we'll hit our G menu. So the next thing we're going to do is we have our rear connector. We now want to do the same thing for the front connector. Notice these two I have not grouped up yet. And I'm not going to group the connectors up. I want those connectors to function independently. So now we have all our thrusters, reverse thrusters, our airship rear connector, and the airship bottom connector. So there's those. Next up, we are going to grab our landing gear. So now I do want both of them. So I'm going to go to our groups, find our magnetic plates, or in this case our airship landing gear. Right click on these, and like with the connectors, we're going to add a function for switch lock. Okay, so there's that one. And now we want to be able to turn our lights on and off. Actually, before we do the lights, we're going to do the batteries. So we have our airship batteries. Now a setting for the airship batteries we want to put on there. Here we have some options for recharge on off. Now what this switch will do is it switches the batteries from just automatic mode, they will recharge or use energy as needed, or which is auto mode, or we can switch them to recharge, which will basically make them a power sink. The only thing that they will do is recharge. They'll draw energy at the maximum possible draw that's available to them until they are fully charged. So you effectively are putting the batteries in charge mode with that. Auto mode means they'll do whatever they need to do. So if there's excess power available, they will charge. If there is a power draw, so say we're running something on our base and we don't have enough wind power, the battery on the base is dead for some reason, it will pull power from our batteries here as well. So that's auto mode. And then we will go ahead and go back home, and we will get a toggle on off for our headlight. Flip back to groups. We'll go ahead and get a toggle on off for our tail light. And then the last thing we're going to do is we'll go to tool blocks, and notice we have our drills. We are going to drag and drop them into slot number 9. Okay, so there's a good basic setup for the first toolbar in for our little airship. Okay, so thrusters on off, switch locks for our connectors, switch lock for our landing gear, auto charge for our battery, and then on off for our headlights and taillights, and then our tools. So notice right now, referencing our tools, these drills on your ship can act just like the drill on your character when you have your hand drill out. So if I select number 9 and I push the left mouse button, that is going to start my drills into the drilling mode so I can harvest resources. Like with our hand drill, if I push the right mouse button, this one I'll just build a big tunnel without giving me any resources for it. So that is our drill. Question number 10 just basically clears our tool, so now nothing's going to happen. Okay, so that's the tools, and then the rest of them we just use by using our keys there. So I am going to go to third person mode. You can switch to third person view doing this, and then we can use Alt and our mouse button to zoom in and out, and we can use Alt and the mouse button to scroll and look around. So there basically is our little ship hovering on its own. And notice there's some light coming out of the cockpit. That is the light coming from my suit, because I had my suit lights on when I was when I hopped in. That will supply some light for you as well. And we can also now use the 7 key to turn our spotlight on as well, so we can see, get a better idea of what we're doing. So now I'm going to use the C key. The C key is what has the ship go down, so space lifts it. The C key will let it slowly descend. And we're letting gravity do that work for us. So I'm going to carefully descend until my magnetic plates are right by my platform here. So now if you take a look at those magnetic plates, notice that those magnetic plates have now, the little lights on them have now turned yellow. And notice in slot 5 it says ready to lock. So now if I hit that, my ship is now locked to the surface and will not go anywhere. So I can use my thrusters, but it's not going to go anyplace. Now if I want to, I'm completely free. I can go ahead and turn my thrusters off, and it's not going to go anywhere. Pushing the V key again will get me back into first person, and F, I can hop out of the cockpit. Okay, so now basically my little ship is parked on my platform. The unfortunate thing is that doesn't do us any good in terms of charging. So recall that when we build batteries, they have roughly 25% of their possible power in them. So what we want to do is we want to get these things charged up. And to do that, we need to hook up to our base. So hop back in our cockpit, hit our 1 key to turn our engines on, hit the 5 key to unlock. Now notice it goes from locked to ready to, and our space bar to lift us up. Now I'm going to briefly let it float here and drop out, because I'm going to clear out this platform, because this platform has served its purpose. It is basically to provide a platform to build on, so it's done that. So I'm going to go ahead and clear it out so it's not in the way. There we go. I might need to use my backpack to get up there. Yep, I'm going to have to. So X for the backpack. Come on up. And in my cockpit. So now, basically, I want to dock this with my base. So notice down there, if I use Alt and my mouse, I can look around in my cockpit as well. Look around, up, down. Down there is the connector on my little survival platform here. And of course, on the back is the connector for my little mining ship. Okay, so we can go ahead and we can line those up. So I'm going to spin this roughly 180 degrees. Okay, and one other thing that we need to put on our toolbar at some point is our backup camera. So I'm going to cycle to the next toolbar, bring up G, go home, bring up our backup camera, again right-clicking to bring that menu up, and I'm going to click on View. So now if I hit number 1, I can see out the back of my camera, and this is what our reverse camera was for. So you can do this in third person as well, either way. I like to do it via backup camera. And a good way to do it with this particular type of connector, line your cursor up with that bottom light there on the base's connector. Now you can also utilize your mouse wheel to zoom in and out. Okay, so you can zoom in closer using the camera, you can zoom in further back. Now we are all the way out. We can't zoom out any further, and that's where I want to be when I'm doing my docking. And then I just carefully tap the S key to go backwards until we see that turn yellow. So now we are, if we go back to toolbar number 1, notice the connector on the 3 key says ready to, so that means basically its proximity to the base's connector, it's now ready to lock up with it, and that's also what that yellow light is indicating. So now if I hit the 3 key, notice that the light on the base's connector turns green, and I am now officially locked onto the base. So I'm going to press F to exit the camera's view. Now if I go ahead and I turn off the engines, the connection to that base connector is going to hold the ship in place. Now finally, if I want to be sure my batteries are charging, hit number 6 on there, and that is going to put me into recharge mode. Now if we go up to the K and we type in battery, okay, notice here is the Warfare battery for our base. So what I might want to do is go here and hit platform battery. Okay, and then if we click on the individual batteries, so Airship Warfare battery number 1, notice the stats on it. So its current input is 4 megawatts, and this battery will be fully recharged in 15 minutes. Okay, that is actual game time, 15 minutes of real time, not game time. And both of those batteries are getting charged at the same basic rate. Now if we look at the platform battery, notice that it is going to be depleted in 18 minutes. Okay, so these 2 batteries here will get charged just a little bit before this one ends up being fully depleted. Okay, so hit F to get out of here, and then bring myself in for a soft landing on the ground. So that is our little mining vessel. I think that's where we're going to call it a day for today. We've got our little mining vessel built. We've got it connected to our base. Now in the next episode, we're going to go ahead and we'll do a little bit of exploring with it. We'll demonstrate how to mine with it, and we'll also use that ore detector on top of the little ship there to hopefully find some ore deposits so we can get some stuff like cobalt and gold and silver and some of those other mineral resources that we cannot get through the stone. Okay, so I hope this was a good episode, and we will catch you in the next one. Wrong button. There we go. Have a good one, everyone.